Hello and welcome back to Solomon's Cave. In this video, we return to the Hebrew noun and look at another way in which it can be modified, namely by adding an inseparable preposition. The first question we should ask is, what is a preposition? Prepositions are small words that tell us something about the position of a person or a thing. Here we can see a small selection of prepositions in English, like under, with, like, for, during, etc. Then we come to the other part, namely that it is inseparable. What does that mean? Well, remember the definite article? That one is pasted directly to the noun, with no space in between. That is what it means to be inseparable. Later, we will also see that there are other prepositions in Hebrew that are always separated or independent from the noun, and other prepositions are only sometimes pasted to the noun and sometimes not. But those are for future videos. As for the inseparable pronouns, Biblical Hebrew has 3 of them. Be, which means in, with or for. Ke, which means like, as or according to. And le, to or for. As you can see, these prepositions have a rather broad range of possible translations. Now let's see how these inseparable prepositions are added to the noun. First, under normal circumstances. Well, it's quite simple actually. Here you just put them in front of the noun and be done with it. Bemakom is a combination of be, in, and makom, field. So, in a field. Ke'ish, like a man, and le David, from David. Le David is, by the way, what you will find above many of the Psalms. And it can also mean for David. So that was pretty simple. Now let's make it a little bit more complicated. What if the first vowel of the word is also a shewa? Now then you have 2 shewas in a row at the beginning of a word. In which case, if you remember the rules about the shewa from my video about the shewa, this means that... wait a minute. We never talked about what happens if you have 2 shewas at the beginning of a word. And there's a reason for that. It never happens. But what does happen then? The first shewa in these circumstances becomes a hirek, which is a short vowel. And then the second shewa automatically becomes silent. So this is how we end up with Bisdom, in Sodom, Gimragil, like a spy, and Lishmalo, for or from Solomon. Now this rule also has an exception, and that is if the first consonant of the noun is a yod. Let's look at this step by step. The first step is the normal adding of the preposition, which in this case leads to Yehuda, in Judah, and Ke Yerushalayim, like Jerusalem. Then we add the normal process of the first shewa changing into a hirek, and the second shewa becoming silent as a result. But now there is a third step, and that is that the shewa under the yod becomes somewhat useless and is taken away, since you might as well take the hirek and the yod and make them into a long e sound, which in transcription then leads to the yod disappearing. And so you end up with Bihuda and Yerushalayim. Are you ready for the next challenge? The gutturals. The Aleph, the He, the Chet and the Ayin. So, what's going to happen here? Nothing. Ah, got you there, didn't I? But what happens when you have a shewa underneath the guttural? Well, in that case, the shewa turns into a composite shewa, taking on a very short vowel. Okay, let's again start with the unmodified standard way in which prepositions are added. Be'ohalim, intense. Ke'edom, like Edom, and Le'ari, from a lion. Now the next step is to take the vowel part of the composite SHEWA and put that one in the place of the SHEWA under the preposition, like this. And so we end up with bo'ohalim, because remember, a kametz before a chatef kametz is a kametz chatuf. If that's too fast, check out my video on the kametz again. Ke'edom becomes ke'edom. Admittedly a relatively small change in pronunciation, but hey, rules are rules. And we get la'ari for the final one. Ready? Okay, let's have a look at one exception to this rule. And really, there is only one. Le'elohim, for God or to God. Just one exception, one word, and that's it. Now here's a question for you. What happens if you have the definite article and an inseparable pronoun? Let's find out. The first step is always to add the definite article. All the rules about the dagesh and the patach changing into a kametz, all of those still apply, so keep those in mind. Once the definite article is safely installed, we put a preposition in front of it. We strip away the SHEWA and gently slide a preposition consonant over the definite hey. And there you go. So that is how you get bamakom, in the field, ka'ish, like the man, and la'ari, to the lion. So how do you know there even was a definite article? Here you have to look for the vowels and sometimes a dagesh. The general rule is that if you can replace the beit, the kaf or the lamed with a hey, and then all the definite article rules are followed, there is a hidden definite article in there. To summarize, when you see a word start with a beit, a kaf or a lamed, it may or may not be a preposition. As you are trying to figure out if this letter is a preposition or just part of the noun, pay attention to the following signs. Is there a SHEWA underneath the beit, the kaf or the lamed? That makes it a bit more likely. Is there a hiruk underneath it and a SHEWA under the second consonant? Again, that makes it more likely. Is there a patach, segol, or kametz chatuf underneath it, followed by a similar sounding composite SHEWA? Again, more likely. Is there a patach underneath it and a dagesh in the following consonant? Or is the following consonant a guttural and the rules for the definite article are followed? Then it is again more likely that this is a preposition with a definite article. If you're still not sure, just get a dictionary and look up the word with and without the initial beit, kaf or lamed. And then there is one more thing to wrap it all up. But I won't bother you with that in this video. Because again, accents make this a tiny bit more complicated. And they can sometimes, in very rare cases, change the vowels just a bit. But I haven't made a video about the function of those particular accents yet, so that will have to wait for a future video as well. To stay up to date with my channel, follow me on social media and don't forget to subscribe.